many of y'all have seen me talk before? Okay, good number. I have to go over demographics first. That's the same thing you do in every paper I write. I have to start with, here are the people who are in the study. So I'll go over demographics of who are anime fans in our research studies. First off, let me thank my collaborators who work on this project with me. That's Kathy, who's up at Niagara, Courtney, who's up at Bishop's University of Small Liberal Arts in Canada, and then Sharon, who is at University of Waterloo. Also, thank you to the undergraduate students who have all now graduated, but they still come to cons with me to help do research. So two basic types of research. One is you have an image in your head and you go collect the numbers and you see, do the numbers match the image in your head? The other way is to collect a bunch of numbers and see if you see a pattern emerging from those numbers. That's exploratory research. We do both, but the better type of research is to have a prediction beforehand. This is also to remind me there's going to be a lot of numbers in this talk. You came to a science talk. Go. So what we do is one survey a year. We're just opened this year's survey. We kick it off here at Animefest. Then what we do is put out, as soon as the survey closes, within a week or two, we put out preliminary data that we think is interesting, just to be like, here's some of the results. Then we spend months and months and months publishing long academic articles. These go into the academic literature. So when somebody goes on Google Scholar and looks up anime and psychology, y'all's data will pop up. Not your names, but your data that's aggregated. And then I go out and give talks like I'm giving right now, and to y'all, the fans, and then you give me ideas that then go into next year's survey. So half of the survey this year is stuff that other fans have asked me to look into. So you're not only answering our boring psychology questions, you're also answering questions that other fans have asked and want to know about. If you Google anime research projects, our page will probably be the first one to pop up. There you can find a book we wrote in 21 that is free to download. You don't have to buy it, it's free because we're trying to give the information back to y'all. Most of the papers are free to download. There are a couple behind journal paywalls. Email me and I can send you those. This 2024 survey is now open. It's online this year. We're not doing paper pencil. And this talk is more of like an update of what I've been doing, or we, the group, have been doing this past year. There's a bunch of stuff we've done. This is our 10th year running the survey. So there's a lot of papers. You can go up to our research desk on the third floor and grab the paper or download from the website. Basically, go to our website. I often say y'all a lot, which makes people feel like I'm not part of the fandom, when in actuality, I'm a pretty big nerd about anime. I still haven't gotten to a year of anime yet. And also, please don't hate me by the end of this. I have to say that every time. So demographics, let's get through them. First, here's the age of anime fans. Anime fans tend to be pretty young. This also reminds me, because of ethics, I'm only allowed to have people 18 years of age or older. There's likely a little slope on this side too, but I'm not allowed to get those people. And so there's very young. And a lot of these demographics play into how young the fandom is. Here is brony fandom, furry fandom, and anime fandom, and year on year, the age. And as you can see, anime and furries tend to be pretty flat. In other words, new fans are coming in and old fans are going out. Whereas the bronies, they see a steady increase of 1 year every year in age, meaning that new fans are not coming in and the old fans are just sticking with it. Here is the ethnicity of the anime fandom in terms of our sample, and I should mention that our research is conducted in English, so people in other countries who do not speak English cannot participate. So the fandom tends to be pretty white. You will notice it's a little different at a con like down here in Texas, but I went to a con last year in Ohio, it was very white. Let's see, here's the sex of the fandom, tends to be majority male. Here's just part of the breakdown in terms of trans within the community. Here's the gender of the anime fandom. The men are in blue, so you can see men tend to be pretty masculine. Women tend to shift around a bit more in terms of their gender role identities. Here is the sexual orientation. The men tend to be exclusively heterosexual, whereas women tend to shift around a bit more. But that is usual in terms of the research in psychology. Women shift more in their sexual orientation than men do. Here is just different identities, a different way of looking at it. Again, the majority of the fandom is straight, but as you can see, is starting to go down last year, and people are shifting to other identities. And we added fictosexual and digisexual last year because somebody asked us to. Not many people in there. This is the type of relationships that fans have. Are you in a relationship? The majority of men are not in a relationship. 80% are not, they're single. Whereas women tend to be more likely to be in a relationship. Here is the education level of anime fans. As you can see, the anime fandom tends to be either in college or recently graduated from college, again, because y'all are young. And so this is just showing the anime fandom tends to be well educated. Here is the occupation of anime fans. The majority at the time that we did the survey were students, again, probably in college. There was a stereotype that they tend to be in IT, computer related. That did not shake out in the data. It was all different types of jobs that people were in. Here's the living arrangement. Where do anime fans live? They tend to be living with their parents versus other locations. But then when we say people 25 years of age and older, where do they live? Living with your parents goes down about half, and then people move out eventually. I don't know in today's economy if that's still going to be true. Here's the political orientation of anime fans. Y'all tend to be pretty liberal. So vote in Harris. Here is the 2023. We have a bunch of different subgroups within the fandom, and we ask you select any of these that you would apply to you. And this is from last year because we add new groups and take some groups out every year if they're uninteresting. So manga fans, about 80%. That makes sense. The next highest group is gamers, especially PC gamers. Y'all are big gamers. Hentai fans went up. It used to hover around 30%, but last year it went up to 40%.
More people just started telling the truth.
Wait, what?
More people just started telling the truth.
It could be more people are being more honest with us. It's an anonymous survey, so I hope everybody's being honest, because I don't know your names. Card game fans, we asked, that was new, so that's about, what is that, 20%? Magical girl fans, about 15%. Somebody asked us to ask about pro wrestling fans. Like, for example, I was down in Sam, Japan. They had a whole wrestling thing set up there last year. It's only about 5% are pro wrestling fans in the fandom. So every year we ask some miscellaneous stuff that we're probably not going to write whole big long academic papers on. So here's the miscellaneous stuff we asked last year. Last year we had 2,600 anime fans complete the survey. By the way, please complete the survey. It is online. I got cards up here afterwards if you want to grab one to remind you when you get home to do it. And please ask your friends. There's a thing in psychology called the snowball sampling technique. If I get one of y'all to get 5 of your friends, and those 5 friends get 5 more friends, it snowballs and you get a bigger and bigger sample. And the bigger sample, the better the data. So 274 people last year from Animefest. Here's some of the main countries from the people that did the survey are living. As you can see, majority United States, and then it just goes, percentages go down from there. This is year-on-year satisfaction with life. This is an indicator of well-being. So how well is the anime fandom feeling? And there was this real drop here in 2022, and I freaked out. And we had other items that year, which was like, do you feel burned out from work or school? And people felt really burned out. And I was like, I'm gonna have to go on tour to all these cons and talk about mental health and well-being. And then it popped back up a little bit the next year, so I was like, okay. I freaked out, I didn't need to. Everything's okay. Y'all are okay. Just had a bad year. Here's the religiosity of anime fans that we asked in 2014 and again last year to see if there was any change. There was a little bit of change. People became less religious. Then again, young people in general tend to be less religious. Here are the number of friends. This one was a little scary last year because friendships is one of the main predictors of your well-being. So here are the number of friends overall that fans have. Here are the number of those friends who are anime fans. So it's about the same. You kept your same anime friends, but the overall number of friends went down a little bit between 2014 and 2023. So y'all get out there and make some friends. That's my advice. Do you have an anime-related sticker on your vehicle? One thing I learned, a lot of people don't have vehicles. And then only about 10% of people do have a sticker on your vehicle. And interestingly, it does predict the other things about your connection with the fandom, whether or not you have a sticker, because you're displaying, well, I'm not gonna get in. This will take forever if I get into this. Somebody asked, you should ask in the middle of your survey, just ask, are you a dog or a cat person? And there's research on this from Gosling, who's at UT Austin. And he did a big internet survey, are you a dog person, a cat person, both, or neither? And he also is a big personality person. And he found that cat people versus dog people are higher on neuroticism, openness to experience, and lower on conscientiousness, agreeableness, and extroversion. Impressively, the blue bars are anime fans. Anime fans are more likely to be cat people than they are to be dog people, whereas if you go out into the population, people are more likely to say dog person. And it weirdly matches up with the personality traits because anime fans tend to be introverted. So maybe this question, are you a dog or a cat person, actually predicts your personality type. But anyway, anime fans are cat people. We asked about source material. We wanted to know, because there's this general idea that anime adaptations are just advertisements to get people to go buy the manga. And so we wanted to test it, put some numbers to it. So we asked, I often watch anime before reading the source material. Very strongly agree. I often read the source materials of the shows I enjoy. Very strongly agree. So anime adaptations are very much advertisements for you to go out and buy manga, which again, 80% of the fandom read manga. So a few years back, we did a paper about sexism. You can find it on the website, and don't hate me. And so we wanted to measure, do y'all believe that the portrayals of women in anime are accurate? And then we did that, and people said, no, they're not. And then a fan pointed out, well, you really should have included men too. Do you perceive portrayals of men as accurate? And I was like, that's a good point. We should have done that. Hindsight is 20/20. So we asked a bunch of different things about, are these different things accurate in the anime that you consume? And people said that they believe the portrayal of Japanese culture and portrayal of friendships in anime is accurate, but everything else fell below the midpoint of the scale, saying this is less accurate. But to justify my original thing, I was right. People believe that portrayals of men are more accurate than portrayals of women in anime. So we asked again this year about waifus and husbandos. And in 2015, it was 29% of men had a waifu and 26.9% of women had a waifu or husbando. They went up. So this last year is 44% and 40% of women had a waifu or husbando. So more people are having waifus and husbandos. Women are more likely to have an emotional connection with their waifu or husbando, whereas men are more likely to have a sexual attraction to a waifu or husbando. And I'm thinking this actually might work with just regular relationships in general. Women tend to have more emotional connections in the psychological literature, whereas men are more sex-driven. Sorry, dudes. Waifu and husbando. So then we also asked, I have a favorable view of people with waifu and husbandos. So do you, like the other people in the fandom who have these waifus and husbandos? And we split the data up whether or not the person had a waifu or did not have a waifu themselves. And we found in-group favoritism is what we call it. So in the middle, 4 is the midpoint of the scale. These people are just neutral, they don't really care. People who have a waifu said, yeah, I like those other people with waifus. If you didn't have a waifu, you were like, I don't like those people with waifus. It could be a schism in the fandom to explore in the future. The waifu wars in real life. We also asked, do you want to have sex with a robot? I should talk about that. So this was data from the University of Victoria up in Canada that a person I know ran. And so these are students, undergraduate college students. Y'all are a lot lower on that. And in general, men are more likely to want to have sex with a robot than women. Yes?
Clarify robot, more specific.
I would have to look at that scale again. But let's just, it's a robot.
Like, we talking what? You know what? Never mind.
You're about to tell me the model numbers? Okay. In terms of subgroups of the fandom, who wants to have sex with a robot? Hentai fans were more likely to say yes than non-hentai fans. Mecha figurine collectors were more likely to say yes than non-hentai collectors.
No surprise.
No surprise there.
But again, it's still below 4. I'm just saying there's some differences here.
Right.
A fan asked us, I watch a bunch of sport anime, am I going to play more sports? So we asked, how often have you played sports? Y'all don't play sports. But there was a small correlation. So the more sport anime you watch, the more likely you are to play sports. It was a better predictor of how likely you are to exercise. So people who watch sport anime are more likely to exercise than people who do not watch sport anime. Because AI is growing, last year we stuck in a question about artificial intelligence. In terms of just your general opinion of AI, people were saying about neutral. The anime fandom is neutral on AI. Then we asked, would you be happy to watch an AI-created anime? People said no. And then we asked, is AI going to hurt artists? Is it going to hurt the industry? And everybody pretty much said yes. And then I looked into, within those subgroups within the fandom, who's pro-AI and who's anti-AI. In terms of, I would be happy to watch an AI-created anime, so these are the people who are against AI, would not want to watch it, and these are people who would be like, yeah, okay, I'll watch it. So artists, of course, because that's definitely going to get into their bottom line. Manga fans, BL fans, yeah, and people who are pro, hentai fans, VR chat users. My theory is that it's more content that can be created and be consumed for those people. Okay, anyway. I'm not anti-hentai. I don't know why I'm sounding like it in my head right now. Do anime fans like censorship? People do not want their anime censored. That was pretty clear cut. Do you like live action anime? Y'all don't like live action. And then because that One Piece came out when we were collecting the data, and personally I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, the One Piece live action's great.
So I looked at before, the people who filled out the survey before that came out, the people who filled it out after, no difference. People just had a general dislike of live action. Okay, so that's just some of the stuff that was miscellaneous. And here at Animefest, because a good chunk of y'all have seen me talk before, a lot of this stuff is new. This is like my update on new things we've been doing. So what have we been doing this past year since I last saw y'all? We started this project in 2013 when we went to undergraduate college students and said, what are the stereotypes of anime fans? And then 10 years later, we went back to the undergraduate students, it's not the same ones, different undergraduate students, and said, what are the stereotypes of anime fans? And the reason we did this was, I'm sure you've all seen the growth of anime. Like you go into Walmart and you can see products, anime products. I went to a mall a few weeks ago and almost every other store had something anime related for sale. It's getting mainstream. So here is just Google searches over time trends, and it's going up. So maybe people will stop. Well, by the way, I should have mentioned people didn't like you in 2013. What? And so I want to see if people like you now. Well, me, see, I just keep doing it. Me too. So we went and gathered the exact same questions we asked 10 years ago. And so I'll start off with, we just open-ended. Describe your stereotypical or prototypical anime fan. And by the way, all of these people in this study know what anime is, but they are not fans themselves. So those are the only people who could do this study. So what does this person look like? How do they act around others? And what is their occupation? So here we have the 2013 percentages. Because these were open-ended, we had to code for these various themes. And these are the 2023 percentages last year. So they think you're nerds and geeks a little bit less in terms of what they mentioned. They think you're less creative than they thought you were before. They say the same amount in terms of introversion, and they have the same amount in terms of non-normal dress when they're just asked to describe a stereotypical anime fan. In terms of when they ask, what do these people look like? Non-normal clothing. In non-normal, it was either all black or the brightest colors ever. That's the spectrum when I'm non-normal. They went both ways. They were very nicer about the way they were talking about you. I couldn't say that, but they still fell into these themes. They saw you as less obsessive this time around, but they still see you as introverted, and they often note that you're extroverted, but only around close friends. If you're put in a situation where you're not with a close friend, you're very introverted. Student went down, so they're less likely to say you were a student, but they still think that you're part of some sort of IT work with computers because you're introverts and you don't want to talk to people. Or artistic, which is a good thing. Was the same, did not change between the 10 years that we measured it. We asked, okay, the stereotypical fan, what is their personality, this big 5 personality traits? They saw you as less agreeable 10 years later, and they saw you as less emotionally stable 10 years later. So emotional stability is what we rename neuroticism. In other words, it's saying you're more neurotic than you used to be. They saw you the same, they still think you're introverted, and they still think you're open to new experiences. Openness to new experiences is a good thing. It's related to intellectualism, it's related to creativity and art. This is a prejudice scale where we say how much do you want to have an anime fan who is one of these things. So nothing changed in terms of this scale. No difference, 10 years apart, how close they want to be to you has not changed. The only thing that was even getting close to significance in terms of changing was to marry into your family, which went down. And we saw the exact same trend in terms of the mean ratings. So they really don't want to date you. They don't want you in positions of power. They don't want you as their physician. They don't want to live as a roommate with you. They don't want you as a teacher of their children. Yes?
Elaborate on spiritual advisor, like they don't want their pastor to be an
anime fan, no, they do that, they do not. But they would rather the pastor be an anime fan than dating an anime fan. I mean, that's the bottom of the barrel there. And then, so here's the midpoint of the scale. So they're okay if you own the restaurant that they happen to eat at. They're okay if they work at the same place. And they're okay if you're a neighbor. And I'll come back to these results later, because I was right 10 years ago and I'm right now. So then we asked these very specific stereotypes. These were the ones that were in 2013 were endorsed. In other words, they say, yeah, anime fans are these things, or they do those things. There was a very small change in terms of easily overexcited, a little bit down. Smaller change as well. They thought you might be athletic, although I just showed you you're not. Watch kids' cartoons. They don't think anime is kids' cartoons anymore. Do not play sports. That went down, but again, y'all don't play sports. And the rest of these specific stereotypes did not change. They held steady. They believe you're geeks, nerds, into computers, you wear glasses, you spend all your time indoors, play too many video games, are pale, like from lack of sun, and they believe you lack social skills and you're escaping from reality. So that's what people think about you. I keep saying you. Anyway.
It's fine.
These are things that people did not endorse. They said that we don't agree with these stereotypes of anime fans. Again, no change. Nothing significantly changed. They still don't believe those things. The one thing that did almost get the significance level is having bad hygiene, which went up. So 10 years later, you do have that. They think you might have bad hygiene. Here are things that were neutral. So it was right at the midpoint of the scale. And again, pretty much not much has changed. Except for they no longer believe that anime fans are mostly Asian. And they no longer believe that you spend all your money on DVDs and whatnot, merchandise. But nothing else changed. Here were what motivates anime fans. These are their stereotypes about what they believe motivates you to be anime fans. No change. So 10 years later, no change. The one that, one, but it's really a small effect size, so it's not important, but maybe family reason to be an anime fan. So 10 years on, even though anime's become more mainstream, the stereotypes are still sticking to you. Yes, or us. Overall, when I took a step back from this data 10 years ago, I would say anime fans are perceived as having low warmth. Remember, you're introverted and social outcasts, but high competence, openness to experiences, you're smart and creative, and nerds and geeks. So in the research in psychology, there's the stereotype content model, which says if we know how you're perceived on competence, we know how you're perceived on warmth, we can predict what type of prejudice you're going to face. And in terms of high on competence, which is where you are, and low on warmth, you weirdly fall in this bubble along with people's perceptions of Asians. Maybe it's the anime connection. And the type of prejudice you are supposed to face based on this model, predictive model, is passive facilitation, kind of ambivalent prejudice. They will interact with you when they have to, but they don't want to. And that the data show that. They're fine if you're the neighbor that they don't have to talk to, but they don't want to marry you. Okay, so that's the stereotypes. Not much has changed. Sorry. So moving on to a different topic, inappropriate behavior at cons. So we measured how frequently do you go to cons, and this will be important later. And then we had an open-ended question where we just asked, what is some inappropriate behaviors that you've noticed at cons, like bad etiquette or whatever. And then we went through those open-ended responses. We coded for 5 different main ones that we noticed in the data. First one is non-consensual, such as unsolicited photography. Another one was hygiene, not showering at cons. Another one was etiquette, like cutting in line, being loud, arguing with people. Harassment, such as not leaving cosplayers alone, following people, any type of sexual harassment. And explicit sexual behavior or attire. I think we've all seen sweatshirts. Yes. And then what we were looking at are cosplayers versus non-cosplayers. Who mentions these different themes more often? Cosplayers were more likely to mention non-consensual activities, such as non-consensual photography. Cosplayers were also more likely to mention than expected etiquette reasons, harassment, and sexual whatever stuff in the fandom. But then women tend to be cosplayers more than men. And cosplayers tend to go to more cons than non-cosplaying fans, because that's where you go to cosplay. So those are what we call in psychology confounds. So we measured, are you a cosplayer, what is your gender, and how frequently do you attend cons, in-person events, and to see whether or not those predicted how likely you are to mention those themes. So we see cosplayers even accounting for the gender and how frequently you attend does predict non-consensual being a theme brought up. In other words, it's on their mind. Hygiene, pretty much nothing there. Once you account for gender and frequency of attendance. Etiquette, it was how frequently you attend. Cosplayer connection went away. Being a cosplayer did predict you mentioning that. Harassment, it still was cosplayer, even when you account for everybody's gender. And for sexual stuff being prevalent in the fandom, it was frequency of attendance. So in other words, for cosplayers, it's mainly non-consensual and harassment that are the big things that are plaguing them in this fandom. So don't harass people and don't take non-consented photos. That being said, I'm going to switch to a more positive topic, cosplayers and well-being. We measured whether or not the fans are a cosplayer. We measured fandom identification, which is how much you feel connected to the group of people. There's an example of how that would be asked in the survey. How frequently they attend events and their psychological well-being. What we find is that cosplayers are more connected with the fandom than non-cosplayers. Cosplayers attend more events than non-cosplayers. And cosplayers have better psychological well-being than non-cosplayers. And then we ran a model where the sample cosplay versus non-cosplay predicts well-being. In other words, as I just said, cosplayers are happier than non-cosplayers. And then we stuck these two things into the model to see if that original relationship changed. It's called a serial mediation. What we find is cosplayers are more connected to the fandom. Being connected to the fandom predicts being more likely to attend events. And it's attending these events, just like right now, where you are right now, is boosting your well-being. Unfortunately, once you leave the event, you're going to have post-con depression of going back to your mundane lives, which we've also measured in furries, but I'm sure it would be the same in the anime. And that original relationship went changed once he was stuck in these two mediators. In other words, going to events, making friends, remember that friend level, we gotta boost that, is what is leading to you being happy. Okay, switching to a different, how long have I been taking? 35 minutes. I don't know how far, I just stick in a bunch of studies and then we'll see how far I get. That's how I run these things. Disparaging humor. We measured fanship, which is how big of a fan you are. So I love anime. We measured fandom, which I just talked about. How much do I love all the rest of you people in this room? So fanship, I love anime. Fandom, how much I love y'all. And then we asked about, in different ways, you, other anime fans and non-fans, how frequently do you tell disparaging jokes, like calling each other weebs or whatnot, making fun of the anime fandom? How often do other fans do it? How often do non-fans make fun of the anime fandom? What is your attitude toward making these disparaging comments about the fandom? And do you think it's appropriate? Or do you think it's appropriate if other fans do it or if non-fans do it? So here's the data. This was on a 1 to 7 scale, so 4 is at the midpoint. What this is showing in terms of frequency, fans are saying, I never make fun of other anime fans. Other anime fans do make fun of other anime fans. And out-group members right around the midpoint. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. One thing I'd like to point out is this disparity between yourself and your perception of what other fans do. Because that doesn't match. Because if other fans, right? Because if you're not doing it, then who's doing it? This mysterious other fan? No, well, anyway. Attitude. So you say it's right around the midpoint, but it's below it, so you don't think it's really great. And so the attitude's right above the midpoint, so it's a little bit okay. You definitely don't want out-group members to be making fun of your in-group. And it's the same, is this type of humor appropriate? You say, if you do it, yeah, it's okay. If other anime fans do it, that's perfectly fine. If somebody else outside of the fandom does it, hell no. And that's what that data is showing. And then we looked at fanship. I love anime. Fandom, I love the other people in the group. Does this predict you're appropriate for in-group members to do it and appropriate for out-group members to do these types of jokes? The more you love other anime fans, you don't really predict either of those. The more you love anime, you don't really care if other in-group members do it. But the more you love anime, it's definitely not okay if somebody else does it. You are protecting your identity because fanship is kind of a way of saying anime is a part of me. And so you don't want other people insulting the thing that you love. Okay. So I'm gonna have to, is anybody under the age of 18 in here? Oh, okay, I'm just gonna say BS. Okay, so we did a study looking at BS. I'm just going to take a step back, give a little history. A while ago, we made a genre preference scale. And to make this scale, we gave anime fans a bunch of genres of anime and say, do you like it or do you not like each one of these different genres? And here was the means. So anything above 4, people say I like it. Anything below 4, people say I don't like it. Or again, maybe these hentai fans are just lying. We'll see in the future studies. And then what we did is a factor analysis. And what this does is group genres together and say this group is different than this other group. We came out with 5 groups. The first one we called psychological, which was psychological mystery and drama. Next one we call slice of life, which is slice of life, school and love romance. Next grouping was mecha, which was mecha military and space. Next one was action, which was action, adventure, and superpower. And the last one was hentai, which was hentai, ecchi, and yuri. Sorry, yuri fans, you get grouped in with them. Yuri fandom is never happy anytime I talk about this. A lot of anime that gets exported and most frequently consumed is fantasy. And so fantasy has a bunch of supernatural stuff in it. So we were wondering, are these different genres going to predict whether or not you believe in paranormal stuff? Paranormal stuff like witchcraft, spiritualism, life forms like the Loch Ness Monster, the ability to have precognition, religion, which by the way is paranormal. And so action predicted these beliefs, and so did hentai, except for religion. So in 2015, this researcher, Penny Cook, put out a scale called the BS receptivity scale. And they found that it's very closely related to paranormal beliefs and conspiracy thinking as well. And so we were wondering, well, how would any of these genres related to this BS scale? And the way they made the scale was Deepak Chopra's Twitter, or tweets or whatever, and because it was just, does any of those statements make sense? And you as the participant would say, rate how profound you find each of these statements. So if you rate high, you're saying these are very profound statements, when we all know these is nonsense statements that mean nothing. In other words, if you rate high, you're very receptive to BS. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If you like Deepak Chopra, good for you. Don't hate people for what they like. As I've learned from being an anime fan. Overall, anime fans did not differ than undergraduate college students on their receptivity to BS. Y'all were below the midpoint, which means y'all aren't very receptive to BS. But BS was related to consumption of anime and related to these different genre preferences. So we did a big deviation model, which shows the more anime you consume, the more likely to accept BS. We also showed, in terms of the different genres, a slice of life, it's pretty small, mecha, a little bigger, action, bigger, and then hentai, right around there. And we were predicting action and hentai to predict this based on that paranormal study we did. But slice of life and mecha got in there. And then when you stick in these things into the model, this relationship changes. In other words, this accounts for some of that relationship. Drama, study after study, people who prefer drama are like the best people in terms of, go back and read other papers where we talk about genres and you'll see. So drama, again, they're not putting up with any BS. Moving back to waifus and husbandos. Everybody loves those. What are we working on with them? We wanted to dig a little deeper, so we had in this study of 1,000 anime fans that said they had a waifu or a husbando. We asked them to rate, what is the reason you're attracted to this waifu husbando? Is it the appearance? Is it the waifu's personality? Is it the role in the media in terms of where they, the protagonist or whatever? And was it because that waifu is similar to you? Because birds of a feather flock together in psychology. The results show that. We tend to like people who are similar to us. We tend to fall in love with people who are similar to us. Then we ask, what type of connection do you have? Is it emotional? Is it a sexual? Or is it you're genuinely in love with your waifu? And here are some of the results. Let's see, what do I want to talk about? 4 was the midpoint, so anything above 4, it's agreement. So it is appearance, personality, people really value, a little bit less so from the role in the anime, and they say less so for similarity, but that's mean ratings, not the associations that we're going to look at in a second. In terms of emotional connection, people feel emotional connection, sexual connection, but it's below the midpoint for saying I'm genuinely in love with my waifu. So then what we did is say, okay, here are the reasons. We included gender of the participant, predicting these different types of connections with a waifu. And as I already mentioned, we see it again here, is that women are more likely to have an emotional connection, whereas men are more likely to have a sexual connection with their waifu husbando. What predicts having an emotional connection? It is the personality of the waifu and how similar the waifu is to the participant. What predicts having a sexual attraction to your waifu is their physical appearance, as well as their similarity. But that is a very big difference, 0.42 versus 0.07. So it's very much, are they sexy? Yes?
Were people allowed to choose multiple?
Yes.
Okay.
And then what it predicts being genuinely in love, it was their appearance, their personality, and how similar they were to yourself. Which disentangles reasons for attraction to another person, even if that other person is fictional. Okay, that was annoying. Oh, maybe I am actually going to finish this thing. I talk too fast. Okay, so we asked What's the impact been on your life? And that was an open-ended question. Just how has anime impacted your life? It was good or bad, whatever you put. And then we had to go and code for it, and I'll show you those codes in a second. We also had a measure of motivations, and this is a very positive type of scale. So we have cognitive intellectual growth and social emotional growth. So how much does consuming anime, being part of the anime fandom, lead to your intellectual growth, and how much does it lead to your social growth? And in terms of the mean ratings, 4 is the midpoint, like in most of my scales I make. Well, I didn't make these, but Delmar made them. People said that anime definitely contributes to their intellectual growth more so than their social growth. Here were 10 of the main themes that people said were how anime has impacted them. And these are in order of how frequently people brought up these themes in the open-ended responses. I would like to note that almost everybody said there was some way anime has impacted them. And well, I'll get to that. So friends, being part of anime, you meet people at these cons and you can form lifelong friendships with them. Like I was talking to a person the other day, it was like, we've been coming since Animefest began. And I was like, I got some bad news for you. I felt so bad to break the news. But that person was saying they come every year to hang out with the same friends every time. So friends, some people say anime has impacted your skills. For example, cosplayers, you definitely grow in terms of your skills making cosplays. Relaxation, it's a way to I've done this when I have a bad day at work, I go home and watch Dragon Age. Fun. Inspiration, anime inspires them to do better, learn new languages, to learn new trades, and start exercising, like those sport anime people. Money time, they say anime impacted them in terms of, I spend a bunch more of my money on anime and a lot of my time. And that one was the only one that was negative. Every other reason was positive. And even when it was negative, it was more like a joke. Oh shoot, I was going a little too fast. It changed their worldview in terms of how they see other cultures. It changed their opinion of Japan. It made them want to go to Japan. Anime made them reflect on how they behave themselves in social situations. And maybe personality in terms of making them more confident to make social connections, go out into the world and meet new people. Those are just examples that fit into those different themes. Then we said whether or not these people mention the theme, does that predict the rating of cognitive growth? So skills was the top one in terms of the strength. People who mentioned skills definitely rated high and say anime has contributed to my growth intellectually. But also relaxation, inspiration, money time, but that's negative. So in other words, if they mention having to spend a bunch of money, they say, I haven't really grown intellectually. Worldview, and then reflection and personality all contribute. So these reasons connect with actual, more general measure of their attitudes. In terms of social, emotional growth, it was people saying the anime has impacted me by making friends, and that has improved my social, emotional growth as a person. The other themes that predicted were inspiration, money again, negative, worldview, and personality. And if you become more confident through watching exemplars in your media, it actually gets you to go out, yeah, you're going to make more friends and grow emotionally and socially. So overall, anime fans are cat people. Stereotypes have not changed in 10 years for the most part, and people still don't want to date you. Cosplayers do not like non-consensual activities around them. They definitely don't want to be harassed, so don't do that. Cosplayers are happier, and because they're attending events and making friends and hanging out with people. Disparaging humor is okay if it's within this room. It is not okay if it's somebody outside with cowboy boots on. Have you ever worn cowboy boots? When I was younger, I got a pair because I thought they looked cool. I wore it for one day. That was the worst investment of my young life. They're so uncomfortable. Anyway, now I can do Wranglers going to be mad at me. Consuming anime, except for drama, is associated with BS receptivity. Personality, similarity, predict emotional connection with waifu husbando. Appearance, similarity, predict sexual attraction. Appearance, personality, similarity, predict genuine love. And an anime impacts your life. It predicts your growth as a human being. That's what we've been up to for this past year. Actually, a bit more, but I didn't feel like putting it in here. If you Google Anime Research Project, you will find our website where you can take the survey. It's open now. It'll be open for like a month and a half. I also have cards up here if you want to grab one to remind you when you get home and you pull that out of your bag. Oh yeah, I should go do the survey. Now, I usually don't do questions at this talk, but I have a little bit of time because I'm upstairs at a research table and you can come ask me questions at length after this. But you know what? Let's go ahead and take a couple. Yes! All the way back so I can't hear you because of that stupid white zombie concert.
I can enunciate loud, so. How do you rule out correlation instead of causation? For instance, you said the cosplayers are happier because they attend more events, or is it just happier people attending cosplay more?
Perfect. That is a perfect. I cannot rule it out. It is definitely correlational data. The only way I could get at that would be to take a sample of people, randomly say, y'all are cosplaying today, and then y'all are not cosplaying today, and then measure your well-being at the end of that day, which I cannot force people to do ethically. So I can't. Correlation does not equal causation. Yes? Yes, the question is self-selection bias, which is a problem with all convenience samples. I wish I could force you to do research, but I'm not allowed to do that. All I can do is beg as many people as I can, please do the survey. Follow up? I did not hear the end part of that.
So it's like a practitioner's bias as well.
Practitioner's bias?
You started the survey. How is that impacting your ability to select questions for the survey? Or did you get that source from a third party?
So where did I get the questions? About half of the survey are questions y'all have asked me to go and look into. And the other half we're a team of researchers. And we have things we're also interested in. And so half and half. We get our boring psychology questions answered, and you get your more interesting questions about waifus and husbandos answered. Yes? Sure.
So when it came to the BS sensitivity, so do you think it actually would have suited the fact that in adventure and the lower half, you kind of have to put up the long BS going into the story and being able to just enjoy the story in general compared to drama, which is more closely related to reality?
I would definitely agree with that. Yes. And the question was, people who are into action, are they just willing to suspend disbelief more willingly than drama, people who are attracted? Yeah, that's a possible explanation. Okay, yes?
Do you have any data on how often people announce that they're an anime fan, say you go on a date or on your dating app profile, if they are open to talking to people, like strangers?
Yes. It goes, friends, you're willing to tell. Family, you're willing to tell. But it's lower. And that's because if you're young and you would be like, I'm going to leave for the weekend. Your parents are probably going to go, where are you going? So that's probably why. And then it goes, maybe coworkers. This is now below the midpoint, so you're not going to tell these people. Like maybe your teachers or supervisors, coworkers, and then new acquaintances. You're definitely not going to tell. So anime fans do not disclose to non-close other people.
By far, would it be a negative to put it on your dating profile that you watch anime?
You might as well get it out of the way.
It's a filter.
Okay, yes.
Have you considered measuring religiosity of fans by genre?
I have that data and I can do that. Email me and I will look at the data and email you back with an answer. There's a lot of these questions y'all ask, because at the end of the survey, we ask, what do you want us to see do next? That's how we get a lot of questions. And as I'm reading through it, a lot of these things, it's like, I already measured that. I just got to write a paper about it and put it out there. And just please email me with that. My name is Steven, by the way. Yes.
So I assume a lot of these samples are taken from like Texas universities and also just like North America. Have you ever thought about like taking samples from like South American students or even European students? Just because it's really interesting to see like, because the different histories of fan culture in those different cultures might really affect the psychology of these results.
So the question is getting more samples outside of US, Canada, UK, where we get a lot
I'm
of...
interested in like South Americans, especially since it's a completely different phenomenon over there.
I know Dragon Ball is part of their...
Yes.
And also like Europe. Europe, like as in how Europe got into the anime craze before us in the 90s, and so.
I would start off by saying I am a poor academic. People think professors make money. We do not make very much money. People think that the NHS, or what is it? Yeah, national, would fund a grant for anime research.
Or just
They
like
won't.
I bet there are universities or research groups,
Yeah.
weaves in South American universities and European universities.
My next hope is
share knowledge.
My next hope is to get a sample from Japan. The weirdest thing is I get like one person from Japan each year. That's our next goal. Hopefully this year we'll get that sample. Other ones, I need a person who will work for free, translate the survey, and then go out and get the people to do it. Just in case, Jason over here and I were just talking about this just like an hour ago. How long is that taking me? Good enough. I will be at the table up the third floor over there by the windows. Feel free to come see me. I'll be there until 4 today. Tomorrow, a few hours in the morning. I don't know. I gotta get home. Thank you.